Well, there's something. Moving on up to the east side, maybe? Hello, friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily Reddit cringe. Anywhere on the internet, promise, swearsies, it's just a fact. And it's totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Today we're jumping into rSlash TalesofNeckbeards somewhat. It's from my personal subreddit, r/ReddX reads. Also, I want to know how you like that new intro. Am I the freshest daily Reddit content or the freshest daily Reddit cringe? Because I got a comment yesterday or something, and I'm like, yeah, accuracy is pretty important. We mostly do cringe content around here. So I figured I might as well try the change up and see what people think. Today, we have a very tragic tale that is being told from a beard, first person, a tale of redemption, I do hope, at the end of things, but there will be multiple parts to it. We are going very, very in-depth, and even from just the first paragraph or so, it seems like a really tragic tale. So if you're not ready for the feels, then now's your chance to run, but if you really want to see what goes into the formation of a neckbeard, at least in the worst case scenarios, then I would suggest that you strap in. We will get some plugs and disclaimers out of the way. They do apply here more than usual. And then we will jump into the tragic tale of FIREBEARD. My Life of Cringe, narrated by FIREBEARD. Hey folks, longtime listener and admirer of ReddX, but I too have a deeply troubling story. This time, not of the encounter variety, but straight from the beard's face. Firstly, let's get some trigger warnings out of the way. Please do not read on if you aren't prepared for any of the following: domestic abuse, child abuse, mental illness, drug abuse and alcoholism, profanity and racism. That's quite a lot of trigger warnings, but the tale must be told at the end of things. And even before getting into things with a list of trigger warnings like that, I'm not sure if it's you who should be admiring me, like maybe it's me who should be admiring you to even make it through all that crazy stuff. All I do is sit here and make funny cringe videos for the internet. I mean, I'm nobody, basically. I got a platform, but I am but a humble storyteller. Anyways, with all that out of the way, allow me to introduce myself. I'm an early 30s male named FIREBEARD. I don't want to detail myself too much and lose my anonymity, but for the sake of visualization, in my description of Papa Beard, think of me as like a shorter, redder, chubbier version. People have described me as a carbon copy, aside from the differences that I've listed. Pressing on, I do want to tell my story in several parts before I commit character seppuku. First part, the childhood and formative years that shaped my perspective. Second, my educational years where I put this into practice. Third, my young adult on my own years where I learned to finally see my way out. So, without further ado, let's begin. Well, at least you did see your way out, man. That's the light at the end of the tunnel, but from what it sounds like, things are going to get really dark before we get to that point. The cast. PB is Papa Beard, MB, Mama Beard, BB is Baby Beard, and SB is Sister Beard.
We got the whole Neckbeard family.
Papa Beard was a giant among men. We're talking about a 6'3" hulk of a man. Working as a lumberjack gave him a great physique. He was also the world's angriest stoner, while I suspect he was also a bipolar narcissist. Mama Beard is a petite woman at 5'5", and always bragged about being a size 0, and smoked cigarettes frequently. My therapist suspects that she has a borderline personality disorder. Oh, I'm glad you're in therapy. Everybody needs therapy. Some people more than others. And I mean that in the least derogatory way possible. Sister Beard is developmentally delayed, and was born with a large cyst inside of her head, creating a large head that was disproportionate to her body. Baby Beard is only a baby, and has no real personality or characteristics outside of just being a baby. Yeah, that's what babies do, alright. Lay there and shit and eat. Let us start at the beginning, where two tragedies collide, starting with my father, Papa Beard, a product of severe child molestation, born to a 13-year-old mother who was kidnapped and stolen several states away. She managed to escape, but she was pregnant with her captor's child at that point. Jesus. When she returned home to her conservative family, they weren't going to allow her to get an abortion. So, forced to conceive, she had a baby boy and named him Papa Beard. Papa Beard's mother ran away from home shortly after this and did manage to make a life for herself. She did well, but she resented her son, hated him, and she would abuse him regularly. Papa Beard had scars all over from his childhood, deep lines in his back from whips of the telephone cord, a chunk of the top of his right ear missing from a violent haircut, a scar on his right temple from being hit against the bathtub. But Papa Beard grew up wanting to protect his mama, and he cared about her, wanting her admiration. Papa Beard had two half-siblings and one stepbrother, but they really aren't relevant to this tale. Mama Beard came from an equally troubled background, the youngest of 6 in a blended family. One full sibling, 2-step, 2-half. All of her paternal figures were varying degrees of abusive. Her biological father kidnapped her brother, beat her mother, and drank every cent that he received. It's tragic already. Mama Beard was raised in a highly conservative household. A woman's aspiration is to be a wife and a mother, never being pushed to pursue any other goals or accolades. But around the time that she became a teenager, her mother began shaming her to the congregation. They needed to pray for her sinful and slutty ways. Mama Beard's family was the type to lock you in a closet with a Bible as punishment, and basically everything was going to send you to hell. I gotta laugh to break the tension. That part is funny. Papa Beard and Mama Beard met through a mutual friend who Mama Beard was dating at the time, but Papa Beard didn't relent until Mama Beard gave him a chance. He cleaned up nice, appeared stable, and had some semblance of normalcy. So to Mama Beard, this appeared to be her way out. Within 4 months of dating, Mama Beard, who was 17 at the time, and Papa Beard, who was 23, were married shortly after. And this is where I enter the picture, and shit absolutely hits the fan. A young lad, born to the trailer park. There isn't much to note of this time, at least not much that I can remember. I remember our pit bulls, and that they were indeed good doggos, but nothing super noteworthy. So let's fast forward a bit. Sister Beard is born, and we live in an apartment. One pit bull was seized by the state for killing another dog who came onto the property, and the other was given up for adoption so that we could live in the burbs. Well, there's something. Moving on up to the east side, maybe? Hopefully. The apartment wasn't particularly nice, and the landlord lived right behind us, and so she would help herself into our domicile whenever she saw fit. But it had 2 rooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen and living area. Starting with only mattresses and a box TV, things eventually began to fill up the space. A couch, bunk beds for Sister Beard and I, dining table, the basics. At this point, Sister Beard was probably 4, maybe 5. She had a developmental disability. There were 2 cysts inside of her head, which were inoperable. Mama Beard was punched in the stomach while pregnant by Papa Beard, but some suspect that she has fetal alcohol syndrome. This, dear readers, is where things get darker. Oh God, it's bad already, man, but let's steel ourselves into the breach. Memories of waking up and seeing Mama Beard tied to a chair and beaten bloody by Papa Beard were burned into my mind. The terror of, just wait until Papa Beard gets home, and the subsequent beatings that followed. Papa Beard could lift an 8-year-old boy by one leg upside down and use his other hand to beat that child like a proverbial piñata. Punishments like L-sits with books in each of your hands. You had to basically sit against the wall with your legs at 90 degrees with books in each hand, and if you sat or dropped down, then you got a beating. And no one was spared. Yeah, corporal punishment is just bad news, man. It works in the Navy because you're supposed to function as a unit, but this is not going to help you function as a family unit, for God's sake. Playing with Sister Beard, I was chasing her with her hair clip until she fell and cried, doing as all siblings do. I begged her to be quiet, and she only cried louder. Eventually, I was called into the bathroom by Papa Beard while he was sitting on the toilet smoking.
"What'd you do?"
he said. Sister Beard, "He hurt me," full of sobs. Papa Beard,
"Take your shirt off and turn around."
he said it forcefully, with anger. I cried and pleaded, "Please, Dad, I didn't mean to." He repeated himself louder and with more force. I take my shirt off and face away. Papa Beard takes his hand and gnashed down the length of my back, tearing flesh with his untrimmed nails, drawing blood and leading a trail down my backside. I cry and run to my room, laying on my stomach because my back was too tender to even roll over or put a shirt back on. I wasn't allowed to go to school when I had marks and bruises. My parents would tell me that
"If you say anything, you'll be taken away and raped in foster care."
I knew this wasn't untrue. Mother Beard's mother, old Grandma Beard, had foster kids that I did hang out with, and they did often have stories of exploitation like that. This was my home life, but what about school? Well, I was in and out a lot, and sometimes sent to live with Papa Beard's mom in the country when Child Protective Services was getting nosy, but for the most part, I struggled in school. See, I never really got to stay at one school for longer than a couple of years. I was always a new kid, and I had all the social graces of one. I didn't make my first longtime friend until high school, and I never got to do the sleepovers at other kids' houses or have kids over to mine, because Mama Beard was worried that I'd get
"Molested!"
or maybe it was just
"Too much hassle!"
not so funnily enough. I actually did wind up getting molested, but this was at a daycare when I was in the 3rd grade. That daycare was run out of a lady's home with other kids, and an older boy lured me away from the group, and I have spent so much time trying to forget what happened, I honestly can't remember the full details anymore. But I did know that coming from a Christian household, I was worried I would burn in hell forever because I was
gay and did a gay thing, and God hated the gays, so God hated me.
I used to cry and wish that I could erase the memory just like editing a film reel. Just cut and paste the parts together and snip out that bad thing. Oh, if only it was so easy. I mean, our brains do our best with it, but yeah, the scars run deep. Even if you don't remember it with your conscious mind, your subconscious just never forgets. I'm not quite sure what I got myself into, man. It might be too heavy, but honestly, OP was brave enough to write it, so I'm brave enough to read it. Anyways, funnily enough, Mama Beard used to threaten that she'd give me away to that daycare lady if I acted out or misbehaved, because she knew how much I hated it there and how visibly uncomfortable I was when she brought me there. I told her years later about what had happened to me there, and she simply wrote it off. My parents weren't very involved in my education, or making sure that I did well, or helping me with my homework. Well, Papa Beard did at first, but I was too dumb and slow for him. I remember when I was struggling with my right and left, and he asked,
"What hand do you write with?"
to imply that is your right hand. I was confused and struggled for a minute, and he went ballistic that I
shouldn't be such a fucking dumbass.
3rd grade, I got expelled because in the after-school program, I drew a picture of a cowboy with a gun and an Indian with a bow. They said that this image depicted violence. Well, Papa Beard was pissed, so for the rest of that school year, every morning, I was to line up and receive my beating. Every day I didn't go to school was not a joy, but something to be feared. I made it through most of the year, until one day, going with Papa Beard to work, he stopped by his mom's house and told me to
wait in the truck and don't leave.
Well, I didn't listen. I ran inside and begged Grandma to make him stop. She yelled at Papa Beard, and surprisingly, he did stop. I didn't know at the time how much of a contradiction this was to Papa Beard's upbringing, but Papa Beard's mom was a better grandma than mom, because to this day, she's still very sweet and nice to me. Well, OP, I ain't too sure that being a sweet grandma means that she was a sweet mother. Usually people get tempered over time, you know. My mother-in-law, sweetest grandma to my kid, but my wife has horror stories. Same with my grandma. My mom has told me some things that she did that probably both of them regret. But this is your story, not mine, so I'm gonna take your word for it. I mean, God knows you need some sort of salvation in this story so far. It is a living nightmare from what it sounds like. So, 4th grade rolls around, and I was still struggling, and my teacher wanted to put me in remedial classes, and she offered me a treat and asked me to get my parents to sign this paper. I didn't know what it was at the time, so I brought it home. Big mistake. Papa Beard.
If you ever bring me anything like this, I'll beat the holy living shit out of you. You better apply yourself. I didn't raise no goddamn idiot.
I knew he was serious. Papa Beard did not make idle threats. I distinctly recall that one time Baby Beard was crying. He was only 1 year old at the time. Papa Beard shouted,
"You better shut that baby up before I do."
He then proceeded to slap the baby. A 1-year-old baby. What a monster, dude. I don't even have the words. That is shocking. Holy God. This obviously didn't stop the crying, but it did get Mama Beard to take Baby Beard and run away until he finally did quiet down. Let's go forward yet another year. Mama Beard and Papa Beard are living at Mama Beard's parents' house because we're in trouble again. But I wouldn't forget this particular day. I was playing Donkey Kong 64 on an old TV in the upstairs attic when I heard Mama Beard bust through the front door. She was hysterical, and I paused my game. I hadn't heard her be this tormented, and we basically lived in torment. Again, not funny, but it gave me a chuckle. Turns out that Papa Beard was killed in a hit and run. Well, I mean, he was your dad, but I find it really hard to be too sad about it. OP was probably conflicted with those type of feelings too. This is crazy. What a ride, man. I overheard that my father was killed while I was playing video games as my mother was crying to her mother. Later, I found out that the hit and run driver did run a stop sign, but his lawyer managed to get him off because my dad had smoked a joint that morning and had THC in his system. So, if he wouldn't have been high and on the road, then he wouldn't have been in an accident. Or if that asshole didn't run a stop sign. But I guess all things happen for a reason, maybe? Ugh. But what happens to the family now? Jesus. So, going through the grieving process, and you'd think that with all this man put me through, that I would hate him. But to be honest, I still have sympathy and love for him. I can't say it's a pure unconditional love, but I do still have good memories, and I still remember that he had some amazing qualities that I try to embody to this day. Oh man, OP, too good for this world. Eventually, as time went on, Mama Beard began to slowly speak worse and worse of Papa Beard, and tried to just write him off entirely, and I understood. I wouldn't say that she didn't have that right. It did still hurt, though. And when she would say, "You're just like your father," in spite and anger, that hurt too. Eventually, she went on to date some of his friends, other random men, a lot of bad actors, and just generally strange people. And this is where the beardiness starts. I'm sorry for all the delay, dear readers, but I trust you'll see that the prologue was worth it, because here comes the cringe. Oh God, let the cringe save us. No more darkness. In middle school, I tried to forge my own way, but since my father had died, Mama Beard started working 2 jobs and wasn't generally very big on cooking. She never particularly enjoyed it at the start, but was more or less forced by Papa Beard to try and fit the housewife role. Now we lived off the McDonald's dollar menu and frozen prepared meals. I knew nothing about nutrition, and I drank Pepsi like an addiction, which it probably was. And of course, as a child in middle school, you don't know anything about nutrition. That's the kind of thing your parents are supposed to teach you, but Mama Beard is obviously off on her own program. It's still not good. I drank Pepsi because that was what Papa Beard drank, and I wanted to be more of that and hold on to everything that he did and do it too. Well, this lifestyle was the perfect recipe to build one fat kid and make him supersized. So fat, awkward, with little social grace, I was attempting to navigate middle school, and I did pretty horribly. I definitely
Bladed.
a few times, but at this point, it wasn't really sexual. I was just looking for friends. I did not succeed. And eventually, I got into altercations that put me in the in-school suspension room. This place, to me, was heaven. I didn't have to socialize, and if anyone did try to talk to me, they got in trouble. I could just do all my schoolwork in an hour and spend the rest of the day reading. I used to love reading fantasy stories, as that was my attempt to teleport me away from my terrible real-life existence. All good things do come to an end, however. I would be returned to regular classes eventually, and then I would proceed to try and push the line just enough to get sent to in-school suspension once again, even begging for it sometimes. And this is where shit kinda goes sideways. You see, I was in school suspension one day and had to use the restroom. While I was in the restroom, I saw some toilet paper which was wet and stuck to the ceiling, and I knew that it was going to be some poor janitor's job to clean it, and I figured it'd be good to let them know before they dried and became more difficult to remove. So off I go to the vice principal's office to let her know. She informs me that I'm spending too much time in school suspension and she'd have to call my mother. I knew my mom was getting in a lot of trouble at work because of me, and she was letting me know that she could lose her job because of the harassment the school was giving her. So I begged, please, vice principal, call her when she's off work. She's gonna get in trouble. The vice principal proceeds to reach for the phone, and I grab her finger and plead again. The vice principal then says, would you mind waiting in the hallway? I replied, okay. So I'm sitting in the hallway, expecting my mom to walk in the door, when 10 minutes later, 2 police officers in blue walk in. One talks into his walkie, and the other points at me and starts walking over to me. I don't know what compelled me, but I freaked the fuck out. I ran, with all the adrenaline of an 11-year-old, and of course I didn't think of an exit strategy. So they cornered me in the counselor's office, grabbed me, threw me over a table, picked me up off the floor, and slammed me into the wall, knocking the wind out of me. An 11-year-old. 2 police officers to arrest an 11-year-old. Bruh. After the wind was knocked out of me, I was obviously incapacitated enough to be cuffed and dragged by each arm. When I could speak, I was screaming for someone to call my mom. Oh, how the turns have tabled. This is a poor time for a joke, but I gotta break the tension, man. I was taken away to juvie. What? I only spent the day chained to a wall, waiting for my mother to come and get me. I remember another boy on the inside seeing me cry and saying to his escorting officer, it's always sad to see the one that doesn't belong in here, huh? Well, I went to court, and the vice principal exaggerated her claim, saying that I had assaulted her. Technically true, I guess. But she added that I was waving my arms wildly in the air, and for some reason the counselor also joined in and said that I had assaulted her as well. She wasn't even in the freaking office with us. Anyway, I got a criminal record with 2 counts of assault, 1 count resisting arrest, and a lifelong PTSD association with police officers. Now I can't return to that school, and I'm sent to the alternative middle school and forced to go to anger management. This is in part where I credit learning some of my manipulation tactics. Some was admittedly Mama Beard, but anger management is really useful for dealing with people. I wasn't even an angry person, but I approached it with, how can I use this for my own gain? That's a good way to look at it, I suppose, as long as you're stuck there. This time period is where I started to become more hormone-addled, wanting to have a girlfriend and wanting to have sex. I began looking at every girl as a potential sexual partner. In the middle school that I was going to, it was pretty common to see pregnant girls in attendance, so it felt like everyone was so grown up, except for me. Yeah, I feel that too, man. One of my in-real-life friends was sharing some really old photos of us as teenagers in the Discord server, and I looked at my face and I'm like, Dude, I was getting up to so much crap, but I was a child. Look at my face. I was a child. Oh, God. Kids nowadays grow up too quick, I'm going to tell you. And OP doing his best to grow up too. He tried so many girls and faced so many rejections. I tried shameful things like anonymity, mystery, pity. Luckily for me, none of that worked. I even tried to persuade my cousin to experiment with me. Oh, no. Uh-oh. She was weirded out and tried to get away from me behind a bathroom door. I remember saying,
At least I have great taste in women, right? Oh, God.
Shudder indeed. That is some good cringe. There it is. There's the cringe. Most of it was feels, but that gives me the nourishment I need to keep going. Whew. I was on the wrestling team, and I remember some girls persuading me to keep an eye on their guys for them, and that they'd appreciate it. Well, I don't know how I expected that to work out for me, but I didn't ever report back to them. I just kind of agreed and moved on. But I was always thinking in some way how this would eventually lead to me getting laid. But I guess desperation reeks like my McDonald's grease perspiration. Eat that dollar menu will do you good. My cousin said I always smelled like French fries, but I'm sure B.O. was in there too. Also like a McDonald's play place, more specifically. Play place isn't really B.O., it's like dirty feet. Kinda same. Little similar. Come on. Needless to say, I wasn't big on hygiene on top of health standards. My garb at the time was wearing a leather jacket all the time to cover my fat rolls, but other than that, I wore a lot of hand-me-downs from my cousin, who was like a foot taller than me, so I was always swimming in clothes that were way too ill-fitting for me. I think this is where I'll wrap this post up. I know there's been some very mild cringe up to this point, but I assure you that high school and college are a lot worse. Mildly scratch that surface with some attempted cousin seduction and middle schooler baby mama infatuation. Oh no. God, I'm looking forward to the next installment. It started out real sad, but then it started to ramp up nicely into the cringe that I love so well. Anyways, thanks for bearing with me, and I hope to put out the next installment quite soon. Jeez, man, what a story. What a story, Mark. I've honestly experienced very little adversity in my life, all things considered, especially when compared to stuff like this, you know? Abusive father, he ends up dying, you're holding his torch and, you know, trying to carry on his name, and Mama Beard's just besmirching him. Which, granted, I guess she did have some reason to do, but man, he's dead. Like, let it go. Monster or not, just let him rest in peace, you know? I think OP has the right idea. I honestly don't think that I could have been as forgiving as OP was. I mean, part of me thinks that it might be because he was young, you know? He might have like a little bit of Stockholm syndrome or something like that. But really, we do admire our fathers. I mean, my stepfather wasn't perfect, but I definitely recognize that he did try his best with a couple of teenage boys, and God knows that was probably freaking difficult. And he was brave enough to step up and be a stepfather. So while he was never this bad, I do kind of get where OP is coming from. My mom still does trash talk that stepdad from time to time, but I'll step up and be like, look, he raised 2 of your kids from age 5 to age 13 or 14. Like, those are some difficult years, and he was there for years. So you can't talk too badly about him, even if in the end, you guys decided it was too difficult to be together. Kids look up to their parents, no matter how flawed they may be. And I include myself in that statement. I'm definitely not a perfect parent, just my wife and I both doing the best that we can, but it is not an easy job to do. Some days more than others. Mama Beard, I mean, she sounds like she's trying to do her best to keep the family afloat and stuff like that. Working 2 jobs. After Papa Beard died, it seems like most of the conflict comes from people who are outside of the family, like police officers and the school, which that is completely wild that the school would charge you with assault or whatever the hell it is, and then to lie about it under oath, like, bro, this is a child, and you're basically trying to get him thrown out of school, put in jail, something like that. I honestly hope to see that vice principal get her comeuppance as well. I was hoping the same about Papa Beard, and he got hit by a car, so just watch out. Oh, I was also sent to one of those like alternative high schools because I basically dropped out of 9th grade. So for 10th grade, they're like, yeah, you gotta go to this school, and if you don't show up to school, someone's gonna show up to your house. So what did I do? I started leaving the house. You ain't gonna catch me. And then I ended up going to a military school in order to graduate high school, where I couldn't leave, and it actually did turn out for the best. Kind of whooped me into shape, you know what I mean? But I definitely understand them hormones raging, man. Like I said, I got up to some shit as a child. And I look back at those pictures and I'm like, God, I was a child. How did this happen? But yeah, OP finally got them hormones pumping. We're going to see how it goes in high school. I guarantee it's going to be far cringier. Hopefully more cringe, less feels. You know what I mean? Because it started out super dark with the backstory, and now it's just kind of like, he tried to seduce his cousin. Which happens more on this channel than you would really think that it does. It's kind of wild, honestly. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next part. This will make a beautiful installment, a beautiful compilation once it is all finished, and I am so happy that you're sharing your story with us, Firebeard. Whoever you might be, you deserve love, you deserve happiness, and it does look to me like you're finding it and figuring out your self-worth, which is just beautiful. If I can do anything to help with that, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Comments, Discord server, even anonymously, send me a DM on Twitter, and I'll be there for you in any way that I can. And that goes for everybody. I mean, I don't have all the time in the world, but if a couple of words from me can make your day and help you feel validated, then I'm more than willing to do it. And I hope that you, friends, are more than willing as well to like, comment, and or subscribe on this video. Ooh, kind of a shameless plug there, but we're rolling with it now. Maybe share it around if you're on that social media. This is a more feelsy episode, but I do feel that it is worth sharing around for that reason. There are some neckbeards out there that are just entitled brats, but there are also some that have really tragic backstories that explain a lot about why they are the way that they are. We got a bunch of links down in the description, and I do hope that you check them out. Amazon affiliate, Teespring, Wifey's channel, Mr. and Mrs. ReddX, my personal subreddit, r/ReddXRead, Darkly Studios on Twitter did the character animation. Shout out to that dude. And we've also got the social medias, of course, Twitter, Discord, Facebook, oh, and my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous patrons. I'd like to thank them all, but especially ZeroMMX, Lady Nix, Robert Waits, Pope Squid, Cider Drinker, Tato Ferret, The Last Shinobi, Mark 211, Aaron W, John Hero, Candy Sora, Fire Drake, Little Lone Wolf, Miss Monday, Silent Revolver, JM Coon, Leon Embers, TSM Kirby, Red One, Synaptic Boomstick, Jerry, Staples Yeet, Cake Jerry, that's a different Jerry. My boy Now One Nick, Brilliant Tamago, that big delicious jelly donut, the one and only Livison, the OG James Cook, Big Papa Jesus, Aaron Lennox, Serrated Ash, Zuka, the Maestro, John Indoors, and 2 new friends joining us today. Twofer! We got Princess Rosalie and Cameron Beck. Thank you guys so much for helping to support the channel. Absolutely huge. And I'll be shooting out an email within the first week of the month so you guys can collect upon your rewards. But thank you guys so much for helping to support the channel. Things do get demonetized from time to time. I don't know how this episode is going to go. It does discuss some things, but I suppose we shall see. Obviously, if you guys can help these lovely people in supporting the channel monetarily, that is absolutely huge. I appreciate that so much. Thank you very much in advance. But if you can't right now, then don't sweat it too hard, friends. I just appreciate you coming on through, hanging out with me, and I hope that you come on back and hang out with me again tomorrow, because really, the views is how my beard stays buttered. In order to join us, you need to wash your hands, keep yourself safe out there. COVID might be going away, but you know what? It's still important. And equally as important, I hope that you'll take some time out to do something that you personally enjoy today. Maybe watching some more ReddX videos. Yeah! Please do always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. And I mean it. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, friends, bye-bye.